My lords, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Transport Fever 2 in the next episode of our Canada series. In this episode we're starting out looking in towards the freight yard that we've set up that services the Calgary Industrial Estate. You remember the four places, the four industries we have lined up outside of Calgary. As we start this episode, we can see one of our grain trains just leaving and another one just about to head in once he has clearance after this one's moved on. And over our shoulder we have one of the food freight trains that takes food over to the city of Irricana and Airdrie, waiting to come in as well. He should now have clearance. Yes, he's started moving, so he's going to come in on platform and pick up hopefully a decent load of food to ship off into the network. Now, off camera between episodes, I have ever so slightly modified this little junction here to hopefully make it a little bit more free flowing. I'll show you what I've done in a second, and while I'm showing you, I'm just going to also paint over some of the middle ballast in the tracks, the new tracks that I've laid down. So what I've done is I've extended to this link between the two lines here is now long enough that you can fit a train in here as a buffer of sorts. So the trains which are heading to these two platforms, if they are busy and they can't get through, they can now wait here rather than waiting up here, which has a detrimental effect on any other trains that are waiting to get on, who could, in theory, get past. So as you can see, the main line heading out over the river has been double tracked, and the bridge is now a double track bridge, and we have various crossover points for the trains to get to where they need to go. And as we witness there, if a train is waiting to get on platform here, as I just said, he can now wait in this area here, this little parking zone or this buffer zone, which frees up these tracks here for anything else that may be wanting to come and go in and out of the station. So hopefully that's going to mean things are a bit better in terms of flow and throughput in this little area, and hopefully we won't have quite as much stopping and starting on our trains that are coming through here. Okay, so that aside, I also got rid of a handful, I think about 4 of the wagons that are delivering food into Calgary, because at the end of the last episode we upgraded them to the 5 capacity wagons, the covered wagons, and I had a feeling that there were too many on the line and this was starting to run dry and would have had some of them running empty into there. That did prove to be the case, so as I said, I got rid of just a small number, and we'll see how that's doing for the line rate, whether we have too many or indeed too few. Okay, but moving onwards, I think today what I would like to try and do is I may start bringing some food up to Cochrane. From here we do have a line up towards Cochrane that our planks train is using at the moment. As it stands, it is the only train that runs on this line, so it's not a busy stretch of track, so it wouldn't overburden it if we did have a second line running down here to drop off food into the city. The question is, where do we want to drop it off into? Do we want to extend this station here and have an extra platform for the food to be dropped off to, with an extra platform, or using this platform here to pick up the food and then distribute it into the city? Or do we come off down here somewhere and have a second cargo station in this area that's solely dedicated to the food and eventually to the machines that Cochrane also requires for growth? I think it makes more sense just to have this as a multi-purpose station. It would be the cheaper option because we don't have the expense of putting in a brand new station down here. So I think for now, that's what we're going to do. Obviously, in the future, there's no harm in adding a second station down here and splitting the two. That won't be too much of a challenge to do that in the future, but for now, as I said, we'll just make use of the existing infrastructure that we have. So we now have 3 platforms active and available to choose from. So what we want to do now is connect the new platform into the network, which is very simple, like so. We'll put some two-way signals here, so the trains, when they're departing the platform, they can come as far as here before having to wait for clearance. Let's get rid of the bit of grass there. We have one small section of double track in place already, but it's probably not a bad idea to have a second little stretch of double track, perhaps down here, or even from this tunnel all the way down to there can be dual tracked. That would work. So if I just take away that junction there, and what we'll do is we'll just run this all the way to the mouth of the tunnel to about there, just making sure we leave ourselves enough room to get a high-speed junction. I think we can get better than that. That was 65. I don't see why we can't aim for higher. There we go, that's 75, so there's absolutely 0 speed loss on this junction, which is perfect. This wants to be one way, so we lead a signal there. We have one at this end. We'll turn this into a blocking signal just there, and I think we'll have one more block round about here. Only going to have one train delivering the food for the time being, so we don't need this many blocks, but we may as well, if we've got the space, we may as well utilise it to some degree. Let's quickly go over with the ballast tool just to get rid of the grass in the centre, just to make it look like a well-used and frequently run stretch of track. There we go. That's the ballast all finished up. So we have the infrastructure at this end ready to go. This platform here at the truck cargo hub is not in use, so we have a platform ready to go up here as well. But what it's probably worthwhile doing is putting street access on the opposite side there, and then bringing a road down into the town from up here, and then we'll connect you in to the, that's too steep, come down to about there. How does that look? Though that's excessively steep there, so we're going to have to run all the way out here before you join into the town's road network. Again, that's quite steep there, so what we can do instead, if we delete that little stretch of road, there was no buildings assigned or attached to it, so it wasn't going to cost the earth to do that, and then just stretch out this gradient as far as we can. That's looking a little better. And if we just quickly have a look where the food is required, so the truck's going to run down here, and then they can come along the top, drop off the food there, and then they want to head back around this way and up into here. Naturally and obviously it means they are going to be looping in the station. I'll live with that for the time being. We can change it in the future, but for now it's going to suffice. And then I think we're going to need, yes, we're going to need an extra platform at this station now. This is turning into quite the busy little station already. So we'll run a track here which activates platform number 5, and we can use platform 5 to deposit the food to be shipped off into Cochrane. And we're going to need to connect this in to the existing line here, and I think we can, yes, that is a double slip switch. So we could connect it in there. And I think that should give us a valid route to Cochrane. Like so. I will make that a double slip switch as well. I'm not sure that it's actually required, but just on the off chance, we'll have it anyway. We'll have a two-way signal there, just like we did on the other platform, so the trains can slowly start to make their way out before stopping. And we'll just go over the tracks with the ballast tool as well, just where there's any grass that's peeping through, just like that. And I believe that will give us full access in and out of Cochrane. It hasn't messed any of the other lines up, which is good. So let's go ahead then and get the line created. So we are running from Calgary Industrial Park over to Cochrane Cargo Hub. You've assigned yourself to the intended platform, which is excellent. Here we want to make sure you only take the food with you and nothing else. Have a full load if possible, but we'll have a set wait time of 60 seconds. And at the Cochrane Cargo Hub, you aren't loading up on anything. Yeah, that's correct. And then you'll be straight off on your way. And this will be food freight Calgary to Cochrane. So then we can get the train purchased and on the line, as well as the road vehicles for the final leg of the food distribution into Cochrane itself. There we go. Just noticed all these are the incorrect colour. The food is the darker of the two oranges. It's the wheat which is the lighter. So I'll just change those around and then change those around as well, like this. So now we can purchase a locomotive, and we'll use this depot over here. He does have access. Locomotives, what shall we use this time? I think we use the Eureka, so I think we could possibly afford to run the Virginia and Truckee on this line. Although I'm tempted to go for something a little bit cheaper. Perhaps the Jupiter. And then we want food. It is a boxcar, but just for completion's sake I will use that tool. And I think we'll only need 5 wagons for this, at least initially. That's going to cost us 2.2 million, which is quite comfortably affordable, so we'll do that. Food freight Calgary to Cochrane. Excellent, he's on his way. While he's making his way out, let's get some trucks assigned to this. In fact, first of all, we need to make the line itself, like so. You want to be fully loaded, 30 seconds only, and make sure you only pick up food and not, say, any logs or planks. Here you can't load anything, so that is okay. And this is food delivery for Cochrane. And then we can purchase a handful of wagons. I'll say 4. No, we'll go 5. Put them on that line. And that should then kick in production of the food at the industrial park. And we should soon start seeing it piling onto platform 5 for its first collection. Let's see if the train is on his way. He should be. There he is now. But we'll have a look at him as well. Not a bad looking train by any stretch of the imagination. I do think the colour scheme makes him look a little bit like a child's toy. Not sure if anybody else is getting that impression from that, but it's a nice looking train. So you're already almost at Cochrane Cargo Hub, so hopefully down at the industrial park you should see food being produced. Not yet. We do have a decent supply of wheat, so I am not... Oh, there we go. 3 has been produced. Now, I have a feeling that at this point, we probably could do with either more trains delivering the grain in, or increased capacity trains bringing in the grain from the various farms. So to that end, we'll start off with our simple wheat freight line here. We have a 6-wagon train at the moment. If we go to 7, perhaps even 8, let's just... Oh, first I'll keep that one as its default, which is 6, and then we can do a quick comparison of the speed to see how much it's going to affect it. So I'm happy enough to go with that. We can always revisit that train later if it isn't quite keeping up with 7 wagons. So 8 wagons, it was 8, wasn't it? Not 7. And we can perhaps look at double heading the train, in fact having 2 locomotives running the one train to give it that extra bit of oomph if it looks like it's gonna need it. So everything's up and running now for the food. Yes, we're starting to get a bit more food arriving here. We've increased the wheat throughput from the farm up at Cochrane. However, it's also more than likely going to be worthwhile increasing the wheat throughput from over Irricana way. We have a full platform, I believe, or no, not a full one, but we have plenty available on the platform. So having a second train on that line isn't going to be the worst idea, and it's going to double the throughput from Irricana and also keep this nicely stocked. So I think that's the next thing to do. So if we just find the wheat freight train for Irricana, here it is, just here, and then we will duplicate this. We'll keep it as a 7-wagon consist for now, and we can always, like we did for Cochrane, add an extra wagon on that train or those trains if we feel it's necessary. So at the minute then we have 3 trains that are going to be running down here, the 2 wheat trains and the 1 tool delivery train. I think that's all we have. Let's just verify that. If you just go to what we can see only. Oh, we also have the food train as well. So we have 4 trains. Do we need extra blocking on here for increased throughput and flow? It's not a bad idea, I don't think, so we'll do that. Let's put a couple extra blocks in our existing passing loops, like so, like one there. We could quite easily squeeze one in here as well. And if needed, we could also have one here, like that. And that just means we've got a lot more blocks available for the 4 trains. Is it 4 trains? I've lost count already. Yes, 4 trains that are running up and down here, so they shouldn't have to wait an excessive amount of time for any trains that are holding up the block in front. Okay, so that's that taken care of. We've increased the wheat throughput. We have food eventually going to be being delivered into Cochrane. One thing I'm looking at doing next is seeing where we can get some steel from. Obviously we have a requirement for steel here. We also have a requirement for steel at this machines factory here, which eventually, providing we have decent growth on Calgary and Calgary Southwest, this will be in the middle of a bit of a metropolis. So having a station out here probably isn't going to be a viable option. So how we get the steel, the planks and the machines in and out of here is something we have to think about in the future. But yes, we need to get steel down here at some point. Now I've had a quick look and I believe the nearest steel mill is up here somewhere, just here, look, in between Golden and Donald. We have plenty of iron ore mines in the Rocky Mountains. We also have plenty of coal mines. So the question is, how do we run the steel from here all the way through the mountain range and over to here where it's required? If we just look at the suppliers, oh, we have another steel mill even further away, so that's not viable. It will be the one Donald which we use. Now, because of the length this train is going to be running, it should be a huge money earner. So I'm quite tempted to make a start on this. Perhaps not in this episode, but in the very near future, because it'll be a pretty epic build. It'll be a very scenic build, and it's going to be quite challenging as well because of the terrain and navigating around all these peaks and valleys that form the centre of our map. To that end, I can start planning where we're going to run the iron ore into the steel mill from. And my initial thoughts are we are obviously going to have some sort of cargo hub here, which will likely also serve as a drop-off point for the towns of Golden, maybe even Suppling Machine and Donald, and the various goods that they require, as well as dropping off the coal and the iron here and then shipping the steel out and so on and so forth. What do we have here? What's the issue? We have two trains facing off against one another. Okie dokie. You're wanting to go that way and you're wanting to come this way, aren't you, onto this platform? What platform are you being? Yes, you should be coming. Yes, this platform here. Well, I think we can alleviate that quite simply by putting a quick junction in here. Yep, that sorted that little problem out. So he should now be free to come down here and then use this little slips track here and into his platform. But anyway, where are you going, sir? If I send you backwards, you should be free to come. Or is that a one-way signal? Let's just check. No, you are two-way. You're also two-way. All these should be two-way as well, so nothing here should be stopping you from coming off here, down here, and then back in. So I'm not quite sure why you've not opted to do that. Let me just send you back that way again. Sir, if you... See, you could come here and then back down that way. After the cargo hub, you come via this waypoint. That should see you on your way now. No, still got the same issue. Is it because... Okay, I think if I send him back... Yes, send him back so his rear end clears that signal. Then you should stop on that block and you should come forward. No, you're not. Ah, because yes, his rear end is ever so slightly overhanging the switch here. But you should be... No, you should be coming down here. Let me just pause it while... Okay. We want you to come this way. I think we can alleviate that by just getting rid of that. Like so. And then you should now start your... Yes, there we go. Not sure why it decided to do it in a weird kind of way and why it didn't just figure that out for itself. But he's... seems to have addressed the little issue now. So we might need to do a bit more work on this junction here to make sure that sort of encounter isn't able to repeat in the future. I think the best way to avoid it happening in the future is getting rid of these two signals here. This one and this one. And then I think there should be no chance of that reoccurring. Can't quite delete that bit of track there, what's called the double slit switch. That's quite annoying. I'm going to have to delete all of that to get rid of it. And then relay the track, like so. And I think all the trains have appropriate access on and off to the appropriate lines. It looks like they do, at least nobody is complaining otherwise. So yes. As I was saying, yes, bringing the train line through the mountains is going to be quite a logistical challenge. Going to be a bit of a test. We're going to have quite a lot of gradient changes. No doubt we'll have some tunnels and some bridges along the way. But it should prove to be a very, very scenic little journey. I mean, we do have natural sort of valleys between the peaks we could follow. For example, if we're coming from here, my idea is we'd run this way between Golden and Spiller Machine, and then we'd bank left towards Field, and then right down here that'd open up this iron ore mine, and then head down here, and then we could carry on to this iron ore mine, or we could branch left through this little valley and then follow this road here by the city of Banff, past Canmore, over the river here where it's at its narrowest, or in this sort of area here, and then we could connect into the wheat line here, and then we'd be able to take our steel into this freight yard at Calgary, and that should work quite nicely because of the distance. As I said, the amount of money the trains make per delivery would be fairly astronomical, so it'd be a nice money earner for us. However, getting the line balance right so we constantly have a supply of steel because of the long distance might be a bit of a challenge, but I envisage there we would have very, very long trains. So if we did that way, we'd obviously bring these two iron ore mines into play quite comfortably. And what we could do in terms of getting coal into this line is we have a mine here, and it could have a branch line that runs down here, and it could either come past this logging camp there and into the line here, or it could even come through here and join in that way. So there are options, and it wouldn't be the most ridiculous sort of track system in the world, and it would make use of the natural valleys that are provided on the map. However, one thing to remember and to bear in mind is when you get down to ground level in these valleys, you can see the terrain is horrendous in terms of it's very uneven, so it's going to cost quite a lot of money to lay tracks through here, because you're going to either have to pay for excessive earthworks, bridges or tunnels. So that is something we will have to bear in mind, but that is for the future. However, as I said, it will likely be the relatively near future because it's something I'm quite keen to do. I've never really done many mountain railways before on Transport Fever 2, so getting stuck into something like that does appeal quite a lot. But in terms of this episode, I do believe we shall draw a line under it for now. We've got a few little things accomplished and we're slowly but steadily making progress. In terms of the progression, it might seem a bit slow, but I'm enjoying just taking my time and, you know, doing it bit by bit and checking on things as we go. Because I think one of the mistakes I did make on the Coventry map was I just rushed ahead and neglected to check up on various lines, and then by the time they did need remedial works doing, there was too much other stuff going on in and around the area that it really made it nigh on impossible to adjust the lines and the rates and the tracks without essentially ripping the whole thing up and starting from scratch. So, all that remains for me to say then, ladies and gentlemen, is I hope you have enjoyed this episode, and I hope you are enjoying the series itself. If you have enjoyed the episode, feel free to leave a like and a comment, and if you want to subscribe for future episodes on this map, please feel free to do so. One thing that was suggested to me by a viewer whose name does escape me, and I can only offer my sincere apologies. I must come across as very rude not remembering a name, so I do apologise for that. But an idea I had, or was given to me, that I quite enjoyed, is perhaps have some sort of mini-series that runs alongside this map. It wouldn't supersede this series. This would be the main bread and butter for the time being. But have a little mini-series alongside where we have a boat-only challenge. Never done anything like that before, and it could be quite interesting. And we could then have an archipelago-style map, and we'd have to ship everything via ship, obviously. And that'd be quite an interesting challenge, and see how viable that would be as a strategy. I think it'd be quite doable. The passenger lines in the cities, obviously you wouldn't be able to have any sort of bus services, but you could have quite a few intercity services using ships, especially if all the various cities on your map are on their own islands, or you have quite a lot of islands with quite a lot of cities. So yes, that's something I'm contemplating doing alongside this. like I say, could be quite interesting doing a bit of a challenge and something a little bit different as well. But yes, all that remains for me to say, I know I've said that twice now, but I'm going to say it again, is you take very good care of yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Ta-ta for now.